Welcome everybody back to Just Plain Crazy. I am Brendan and thanks for joining me again for another episode. And we have another airliner custom theme build. This one, it's going to be marvelous. So this is a custom build for Drone Man Productions. You can actually check his channel out there, but we're hoping that he'll be super ecstatic with this and the way it turns out. Can't wait to get this thing finished. Let's get started. Complete time lapse. That's it. Let's go.
All right, future Brendan, I'm going to talk you guys through this thing as we go. I found it's best to go ahead and strip off all the pieces as we fill in all of those seam lines with spackle. And it's also easiest during the customizations that we strip out all the electronics, servos, control horns, and things of that nature. If you've made it this far through the video, the next section is already my coolest part, where we simply use a wet sponge to sand down the spackle. There's a tip for you.
Here we go. We're going to do one of the most incredible AL paint schemes ever. And I'm going to show you guys how I do it on my layout before we put it on the real thing. Let's do it.
So what you guys are seeing here, those are basically just silicone circles off of Amazon. And I'm using multi-layers or multi-colors here to create layers. You can use plastic bags, newspaper, whatever to make the effects. Before you throw the circles back on, you can actually use white and black to create highlights or shadows on the planet if you want to before you start shooting the background like you see here in the blue or purple. So in the next couple sections of videos, what you're seeing is I'm experimenting around with colors to prevent the plane from being too dark, trying to find the right color combinations that I am going to be happy with for this plane and ultimately will pop and give some life to the characters within it. So again, there's the plastic bag to create some ripple effect. Put the circles back on, and now you can create the rest of your scene around it and have clean lines. And you could offset the circles too if you wanted to, incorporate some of the backside, like I said, shadowing into there. I probably went through $20 worth of this craft paper or craft poster board from the dollar store is where I get it from when I go ahead and I'm practicing here. There you're just using, you can use an index card, you can use anything you want. Some guys will actually use like a drywall blade or something like that just to create some of those star lines. And then obviously you're just flicking in the paint, spray it into your hand and then flicking it in to create the stars. The secret there is to do it straight down. If you do it at an angle, then it creates blobs. Also, with an index card, you could fold that in half and shoot into the index card, and that'll help to make your asteroids or your shooting stars as you see here. Now we're just going to go ahead and practice around with the rudder. I'm kind of getting an idea where I want to go at this point, trying to ultimately see what a rudder that is cut to the actual size of the foam one. And I'm pretty happy with where we're going here, starting to add a little bit of effect that would pop out from behind the tail art. I take an index card there that has a circle in it. It makes it easiest to go ahead and make the center of the shooting star. And if you want to give it some depth, just keep adding multiple colors. And if you want to really make it pop, just kind of off-center them a little bit. Now we're back to going ahead and taking the plane and prepping the fuselage. We're using an alcohol to rub down the whole plane to remove any oils, do a final sanding if needed, cleaning up the bench and using a protective mat as we cut in the lights for the horizontal stabs. While that fuse is continuing to dry, We're going to go ahead and get back to making some different artwork here and see what we like best. There we're using the paper to create a swirl effect within the planet itself and trying again to find the right color combinations. What I found ultimately works best, keep colors of the same color palette together. So a baby blue, a midnight blue, a dark blue, a purple, all those things will flow better than drastic color changes. Again, using cardboard just to shoot against, to make a shooting star. That was a full scale that went over the house. Yeah, that thing's kind of noisy. Again, flicking in some stars. That planet would work best if you went ahead and actually painted some darkness on shadow on the bottom side of it. That would have turned out great. Now just using crumbled up magazine paper. You can rub your fingers on it, you could twist it, you could just push it flat, add more colors, push it flat again. So many different things you can do here, guys, if you want to play around with this scheme. Ultimately, when I looked at this and the way it turned out, it's phenomenal. So many different techniques I wound up using in this model to make it turn out the way it did. Guys from eBay, that's where we pick those things up. Going to go ahead and remove off that windshield. Ultimately, towards the end, I wish I would have carved out a little bit more of the seat to set the guys down in lower, but they still look neat. I've found over time of doing these that it's easiest to pull the windshield out, so you could work at getting your light and stuff in there. It just seemed to make the whole task a little bit easier. And we actually have paint that perfectly matches there. Again, Home Depot to the rescue, just little paint samples. So we put Thor and Iron Man in there in the seats and we glue them in. My favorite epoxy in the world is Hysol. So we just use a little bit of Hysol and glue in those pilots. Not worried about them coming out, not worried about them getting hot from the sun. Once they're in place, a little bit of canopy glue on the canopy. I use Zap canopy glue, reattach that. We're ready to start putting some primer on this bad boy. Last final coating here of Minwax clear. That really kind of helps to smooth it out. So we basically alcohol down the whole plane, then we Minwax the whole plane, then primer, and then paint. I like it. It kind of helps to seal. Like I said, it fills in some of them little cracks. We start with the rudder. We're painting over the blue stuff that came with it from Motion RC. So here we go again. Every chance I get, I'm trying different color combinations. Ultimately, what I found is what I like right here the most is using my fingers to drag the colors. That was the pattern I went with behind the Avengers characters on the back of the plane. It really helped to give me that streaming kind of fireball effect that I liked. And then that asteroid belt that I just painted there with the white is the theme that I kind of use for the whole middle of the plane. That's the one I found worked the best. This painting here had to be my favorite out of all of them. I don't know what happened at the beginning of this footage. Couldn't find it. But that was really the kind of color template that I ultimately chose to go with. That circle pattern with that star effect on it I used multiple times on the plane. So towards the end here, I really dialed in what it was that I was going to be looking for on this AL. And again, just different layers of painting, using paper to pull it off. These poster boards are about $1 a piece and obviously double-sided, so it really gives you an opportunity to play around a lot and experiment and not have it break the bank. And there's that color smear effect again with my fingers. I'm just using it on the planet, and that's what I used again as the background. Little bit of shading. You notice you stay with a light purple, a dark blue. A little bit of star effect there, working on just another planet color profile. So many cool designs you can come up with while you're doing what they call street art. You see this a lot at the boardwalks when you go over by the oceans, things like that by us. Believe it or not, the white on white does show up. Especially you start to add a little bit of other colors to it, little black for shading. This way you minimize the amount of black too that's on the plane by pulling out all these other colors. The black really fills in the back spacing and gives that depth and space effect or feel to it. A lot of this stuff I did out in the garage because I can wear a respirator and stuff. Well, it's finally time here. We're finally going to get some paint on this plane, and we start with the rudder. We just start shooting our multiple layers, a little bit of black to fill it in, keep our color palettes close together. So our pinks, our reds, then we go with our light blue, the lighter blue, the fuchsias, the purples. We cover it over with the white, and there's that dabble effect. Now we're pulling the red through instead of the black like we've done before. A little bit of a spackle trowel, creating some star effect there, using a cup with a hole in the center, and I use the outside of the cup to shoot against to create a circle. The index card folded over will help to make my asteroid shapes, and we carried the colors right over around to the other side so everything stayed symmetrical. Going to do a lot of the same thing, coat everything over with that white. And then just use a paper towel in this case because it pulled a lot more of the color off than the newspaper did. Once that dries, and I think the key is dries, then add your stars. If you add your stars before the base is dry, the stars actually weep into the other paint and they look more like blobs instead of dots. Again, using the index card to create some shooting star effects. And for the beginning of the Marvels AL37, I'm really happy with the way that rudder turned out. And again, there's a time delay here in this process that you didn't see between letting it dry and then coming back to flick some stars on it. You don't want to use too much of that paint. You put too much in your hands, you're flicking blobs. Again, you want to do it straight down. Now it's time to get the engine nacelles painted up. If you haven't seen the baby powder trick, this helps to prevent pulling off paint when you mask stuff off. Rub everything down with baby powder. Perfectly clean lines, and the tape will come right off without peeling the paint below. So we painted all the top parts gray and let those dry. Then we masked them off. That gray will match the wings. Now we're sanding down all the little divots on the whole plane. We did that early on, and now we're just doing the other pieces. We're finishing up the lights on our horizontal tail. I opted to go with green. Kind of resembles the Incredible Hulk. I start by painting the engine nacelles and the winglets using some of the black in the back. That way I can go ahead and add in that bronzish kind of color and the silver to make the dirty engine effect of the exhaust. We paint the winglets all of our colors that we like, and we're going to cover them with black and then use the crumbled newspaper to pull off the black, which will really give you that depth. Once that's dry, then we add all of our stars later. Again, just choosing our color placement. We'll color it over with some black, maybe some dark purple in places. The bottoms I kept solid red, so that way it would match the belly of the plane. We're using a crumbled up newspaper, place it on there and pull it off. If you notice that any reason the paint starts to dry too fast, which it will, it'll stick the newspaper to it. So in that case, get some clear coat and make sure that you keep it wet with some clear, and it'll pull that off the same way. Once those dry and you actually clear coat them, it really makes the colors pop. They stand out a lot more at that point. Just adding in the stars, baby. Adding in the stars. The hole in the bottom of the cup, making a couple little brighter stars or bigger stars. What I do with the index card is how you have it folded is absolutely important, because if you put your finger pressure at a certain point, it'll either make a blob in the front or a perfect shooting star. Whenever you have your index card bent, go ahead and try it out on a couple pieces of paper before you use it on your final product. You'll feel when you get that tension right and that placement right. Once you do, keep it there and start shooting all your stuff. Using the outside of the cup just to create a half moon effect. Again, the spackle knife to create the shooting star effect, or the shine off of the star, I guess I should say. And then our decal placement will be right over most of that, so you'll see that in the background. Now, the wings are painted gray at this point. You didn't need to see a video of me shooting them gray. Getting them mounted up on the fuselage so I can start laying out the decals and those trim lines. The trim lines, take your time. Otherwise, you're going to look like a drunk guy from PennDOT putting down road lines. They'll be all over the place. Really take your time here. Make sure they're nice and straight and even. I got the nacelles mounted. Now it's time to get on these vinyl decals. Patience. The spray I'm using is water with 2 drops of alcohol and 2 drops of Dawn dish soap in a spray bottle. That'll give you the ability to make it work. And if you need to stretch something, a minor or a very small amount of heat will allow you to do that. The wings are done. We're off to primering the fuselage. Sanding blocks, they're important. 400 grit on a multiple different sanding blocks. Do not sand off the nubs for the windows. You can see the little white tabs there where I have a mark, so I don't sand them off. So we primer it, we sand it, primer it again, sand it again, do some more touch up if needed, sand again, make sure that this thing is nice and smooth as possible.
All right, guys, life is a hot mess at the moment. We're finally back at this thing. It is time to hopefully wrap up this AL37. A couple things we got going on. Got to finish some more sanding. Finally got the last coats of primer on, and you can see I paint marked all of my windows there, except for that one. That one bled through when I lined it. But anyway, we've marked off all the other little window spots there so I don't sand over those. We have our sandpaper on our sponge ready to go. I got some extra graphics I was waiting for Callie. We're going to put those all over the winglets here to dress that up a little bit, and we can finally clear those and get those done. And we also got the resize on our tail logos. I wanted them just a little bit smaller to make sure they fit as completely as possible. That stuff will go here on the rudder, and we're going to get this kind of started in a direction where I feel like we're accomplishing something. So the goal is today, sand, get this thing taped on the belly, ready for paint. Got a cool lava scheme coming. So glad you're sticking around. Let's do it.
A little bit of rubbing alcohol in there, clean off all the garbage. Put on all of our stones, our magic stones. I guess they're called infinity stones, right? Placement I just chose random, nothing specific. Just to fill it in, give it some pop. Last cleanup or two. Now we're going to start to tape off the belly. There's always a ton of ways that I do this. I don't know that I prefer one over the other. The best thing I found is a string line to find exact center, and then I use a protractor or a compass, I should say, not a protractor, but a compass. And then I do the half moon shape with that on a pencil, and then I just trace that with the tape. We're going to do several coats of red here because I want the red to have a lot of depth to it and darkness to it. I didn't want to cover it with black right away. While that's drying, we're off to starting the clear on the engine nacelles and the wings because all the decal work on those is done. Minwax, polyacrylic, water-based only. Don't use anything other than water-based. It will yellow. If you make a mistake, a little bit of water will help to take it off on this if you can get it before it completely dries. The nice part about polyacrylic, it also remains flexible. So that way it's a nice clear coat, make it look like fiberglass, but as the wings and stuff bend, it won't crack. We're going to clear the horizontal stabs at this time also. I do not clear over the lenses. I always tape off the lenses. It makes them look hazy if you don't. Light coats, probably 3, 4, 5, whatever is needed. At this point, I have about 3 or 4 coats of red on the fuselage. You can see how dark it is. So I do one final coat of red and immediately chase it with black. And then I'm going to start to use the paper to pull it off. As you get towards the end, that black's going to start drying. So you're going to see that I take, again, some clear coat, Rust-Oleum clear coat, and spray it to keep it wet. So that way I can continue to pull the black off. And continue to pull off as much black as you want until you get the depth of the effect that you want. And then chase it with the red again and really push that black down. It turns out amazing. At this point, while the paint's still wet, I like to go ahead and peel my tape so that way it doesn't grab a hold of a run and peel off the stuff you just put down. Because of the multiple contours of the nose, the thing that I found best to mask it off is just a wet paper towel. Don't even bother with tape. Get it wet, stretch it where you need to. We're going to do the same thing we did with the belly. Red, 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 and black. Start working on our aluminum HVAC tape for all the leading edges of all the surfaces. Clear coat's dry, so now we can start throwing that on the wings and the horizontals. Start to get the motors back into the nacelles. Pop those apart. Yeah, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. It's always appreciated. Like, share, subscribe, all that cool shameless plug stuff. Making sure we just cut the paint so we don't peel it. And the clear coat. Go ahead and pop that stuff out. Gonna go ahead and chase them motors in. Don't forget your swirls, bro. Bro, do you even swirl? Again, we've been working on this thing since November. There's a lot of months in this plane. All those connectors that are in the bulk connection at the wing where the ribbon cable goes into, I use hot glue to fasten all those so they don't come loose. A little bit of HVAC work here to finish up. Doing the horizontals. Back at that nose again. A couple coats of red. One quick coat of red. Black. Chase it right away. Wipe it off. Chase it with more red. Bam! There's Rudolph. Now, this is one of the coolest things that I come up with. For painting all them little things, go to the craft store, and on sticks, they have alligator clips. Pluck them into foam. And all I use is tape on the back of those. I just take the tape and I make it a funny, like, I don't know, like an L shape sticking off of there. Again, graphics from Callie Graphics. Here I'm starting to lay out the spacing of where I want to put things, make sure everything is on the right side of the plane. And what's important here is the backgrounds behind these figures are going to have that streaming, streaking kind of fireball looking scheme, so it'll be different from the rest of the plane. It's important to know where to do that for me anyway. And that's what we're going to start painting. Now, what I've noticed as I go through this thing, I get a couple spots where the paint does not want to stick. This was one of the Motion RC planes that had the yellowish tint to the white, and this is the first time I've ever experienced this where regardless what I did, the paint was a challenge to stick. So multiple times we had to clean paint off, resand, re-clean with some solvents, and keep going to get them oils out. They would just weep through this thing. So a challenge, but we got through it. So now we start laying out all of our base colors, and the thing kind of looks like a Shamu. A lot of driveway traffic today. It's nice, beautiful day out. Paint this thing outside. Now, because of the sun and the temperature outside, I don't want the plane to blister, so I did move myself back in. And now we're starting to focus on that multi-layers of colors behind the figures. And this is where I use that paint technique where I swipe with my fingers on a glove, keep it nice and wet. Get that stuff all streaky in there. And it's hard to see because of the shadow on that side. Hopefully this one turns out better. There you can kind of see how we pull through some of the underlying blues and pinks. That looks incredible as we blend in the rest of the paints. Little sections at a time, guys. If you do too much of this, you're going to wind up having the paint start to dry. You're going to wind up with an all-black plane. And although it's dark, it may look dark here. It's not going to be dark when it's done. The clear really makes that stuff pop and the colors come out. Get off a good amount of the black. You don't need a lot there, though. Man, you can really start to see now that swipe pattern starting to pop. Lots of newspaper. Have everything ready to go. Even that little section started to dry out, so I needed to shoot it with a little bit of clear to keep it wet. Keep working at it until you get enough black off that you're happy with it. Starting up here at the front. If you guys are a constant follower or watcher of my channel, thanks much. Do me a favor, comment down in the section below. Do you like more of the time-lapse and the voiceover like I'm doing here? Or do you like more of the stop and explanation and then time-lapse and do it? Tell me what you prefer. Either way is good with me. I kind of like this because I'm not worrying about talking while I'm building. I'm worried about building, and now I can just go back through and voice over everything and explain what I'm doing as we go. So just continue section at a time. Continue to add colors and add layers. If you're not happy with the way something looks, spray it over with some more colors and start again. The best part of this scheme is it's completely random. There are no perfect lines to it. Again, trying to minimize the blackish. Yes, we want the blackish hue and backgrounds, but that's not our primary color here. We made a mess of the garage. Tons of paper, paint, caps, cups, everywhere. Side 2. Again, still wearing the respirator. In the garage, even with open doors, you can still smell the stuff, so prefer not to smell it. I dreaded this part. I couldn't tell you for how many months, just because it's like so much work that was going to go into getting this fuselage just perfect. I was afraid of messing it up more so than anything. I was more afraid of it not turning out than I was like excited for it looking cool. Now we're working on that little asteroid belt. We have our white line, so we're just going to keep filling in the colors on the top and the bottom of it, and just multiple layers to give it a faded effect. You don't just want to spray white, blue on one side and red on the other. Keep working it, a couple different layers at a time, couple different colors to get that whiteness, that bright white out of there and give it depth. The more colors you do, the more you fade, the more depth. Peel off that protected nose. We'll leave the masks on the windows, on the windshield until everything is cleared. Now we actually start to put in our asteroids, and we also flung some color-changing glitter on top of this plane at this point. The darkness of the lighting in the garage makes it look much darker than it is, but color-changing glitter at this point, I gave it a nice bath of that stuff, and man, when I put it out in the sun, does it look fantastic. It changes the glitter and the silvers, the purples, the blues. Again, some more shooting stars or asteroids. Do both sides. And then once everything is good and dry, then we can do our stars. Again, get your pattern right on a scratch piece of paper when you're using the index cards, and change the index cards regularly. Do a couple and change it. Do a couple and change it, because otherwise you start to get globs and then they'll drip on the plane. Using the cap with a hole in it now just to make some more of the brighter stars, the bigger stars. Overlap a couple colors. You could put those right in front of the shooting stars, which looks cool, gives it a nice effect. Continuing on, going to get a couple more shooting stars in there. A little bit of star streaks there using the putty knife. A little bit of touch up. And now you'll see coming up here in the next part of this, we're going to get a cup and start making some circle shades. It's easy to make the circle shades with a cup. And then again, using the putty knife to make the star streaks. So just a couple spots there that we wanted to make better. And there you go, just shooting around. See how quick and easy that was with a solo cup. The putty knife making a little star streak there. Super nice effect. Using the paint cap with the hole in it. The more you pull that away from the surface, the wider the circle is going to be, even though that you're using the diameter. If you got a little much, use the towel to brush it up. Again, using a mix of water, alcohol, and soap. You can see how that streaky pattern we worked on earlier really pops. Get the Callie graphics laid on there, get them pulled from that paper. Once they're all off on the paper, we can really kind of work them into the position we wanted them into, and then slowly start to dry and work out, using a little squeegee, work out the water and stuff behind the decals. Once that's all done with the squeegee, just take a paper towel over the top of them, and that'll help to wick away any water and really help them to dry in place. Can really start to see from this angle a lot of the paintwork and how it pops. The decals are just going to look incredible over the top of all those backgrounds and patterns. Here you see I use my laser level. I absolutely love that thing. There's nothing that upsets me more than crooked decals. So we have a level on the top of the plane to make sure the top of the fuse is level. And then we're using a laser level to make sure that we can get all the decals placed exactly where they needed to be. This will ensure everything is nice and straight and then equal side to side. Just trying to eye up to distance back and try and use some markers. I believe, thinking back on this one, I used the Marvel sticker right at the edge of that little hatch opening on top of the plane. Again, squeegee it out. Keep the paper close to the fuselage and slide it away from the decal. If you pull it straight off of the plane, what's going to wind up happening is it lifts the decal. So slide it along the edge of the plane. Now we're going to start working on the back on the tail art using our laser level so we can shoot that pattern all the way around. Simple sticker placement as always. I always extend the tail art into the rudder itself from the vertical stab. So there's trimming that's needed here. Make sure you put a new blade on your X-Acto knife every single time you do this. Otherwise you drag the decals and it makes really ugly jagged edges. Then we can fold that right into the crease of the rudder, and that gives it a really, really nice clean look. Now there's not much left to do yet on this side. We're going to start to do the doors. So again, we went ahead and kept our little tabs on the fuselage. Freewing does a nice job of leaving little tabs so you know placement of not only the windows but the doors. And that's why it was so important for those not to sand those off in the primer process, because we really need them to make sure all of our stuff stays straight and we get the placement equal side to side. But boy, is this really starting to pop now with all those decals on it. This thing is really turning out an amazing, amazing look here. When you see this thing with the clear coat on it, it is literally out of this world. It's amazing the way this thing turned out. Yep, as always, like, share, subscribe, guys. It's appreciated. Share this one around. This one's a pretty spectacular finish for me, or a pretty spectacular project. Now we start window placement. Window placement is beyond belief important. So after all the other decals are on, then the windows go on. And I still use the spray mix of water, alcohol, and Dawn dish soap, but we make very sure that all those windows are nice and straight and that they don't get crooked on there. There's nothing worse than getting this far along in the process and then putting the windows on wrong. Man, you kind of see that little star streak there above the S in Avengers, how that kind of starts to pop off there. Sometimes you just get lucky. But how nice is that? Again, future Brendan here, or Brendan from the future. Do me a favor, throw something down in the comments below if you didn't catch it earlier. Let me know if you like the voiceover as I'm doing right now, or if you kind of have watched a lot of the channel before. Let me know if you prefer the other format where I actually stop and yap, or just kind of give you guys some regular directions and then time lapse through it, or if you like that format now with just the voiceover as we're showing you a quicker time lapse. I guess it depends if you're actually building that particular model or if you're just looking to see how something was made. This project, again, took me roughly 5 months working at it on and off to get everything done and done right. Fuselage on this thing turned out amazing. You can't see a seam in it anywhere, and very much so has a look of fiberglass when you look at it from a spectator point of view. So there's the middle set of windows. One more set of windows to go. They break these up into 3 parts from Freewing. If you're actually going to use the windows from Callie, she has them in one continuous strip. I noticed with hers, her windows will not line up with the marks that Freewing gives you, so I typically just shoot for the Freewing windows. And here's a little tip for you. Should you happen to mess up a Freewing window, Callie's are the same color. Here's a good shot of that pattern in the background that'll go behind our decal, so all that streaking will hang out behind the characters. And to the left, you could also see that planet that we had finished. Man, did that thing turn out nice. Again, same kind of concept as the other side. Peel everything off. Keep the pull of that cover sheet straight down. Don't pull it away from the plane. Here I decided to touch up a couple parts of the decals that I wanted the white out of there. I didn't like the white in the background because we spent all that time customizing it. I want the customization to show through, not the white in the decal. And obviously you find when you want to do custom work, you find the decals, you send them to Callie and she'll make them up for you. So she's kind of using and cropping the images you sent her, but sometimes there's some pieces that kind of sneak their way through there. I placed just a regular hotel key card on the back side so I can cut through the decal and have something solid to press on and not have the X-Acto knife go through the plane. Now we're going to hit the tail art on the other side, and all I did was use a piece of tape by viewing from the front or the back a piece of tape where the other decal was, and now I could transfer over the same height from one side to the other. Again, half on the vertical stab, half on the rudder, and now we can just go ahead and trim it once I'm happy with everything and everything is nice and level like the other side. I had Callie resize those graphics for me. As you saw, the first ones were really, really big, and I didn't like the look of part of the decal hanging off, especially because I put on the leading edge tape, so I didn't want that to stick over the decal. Couple cuts, and then we're off to our decals on the front. Now we're just going to go ahead and make sure we mark off all the little tabs with tape so they're easier to see. They kind of blend into the paint scheme really well. So I just use some low tack 3M tape so I can find the window edges and I know where everything is. Got a couple of them that are hiding in there. It's going to take a little bit. We'll find them. A little flashlight along the edge makes those imperfections stand out. That's a good trick too when you're looking at places to sand. Here you can see another trick I use if you're trying to transfer the exact location of one decal from one side to the other. Simply wet some rags, lay them over the top of the plane, and now you have your perfect spacing. So we know exactly where that decal is going to go. And I use the Marvel sticker as placement to put around, line it up with the top edge of that canopy. That little hatch cover at the top. Make sure the plane is level. Use my laser level to make sure that the decal is level. And we're going to get that thing applied. Squeegee it out. Slide that decal paper off, keeping it close to the plane, not pulling it away because you just pull it right off. Again, that mix of soap, water, and alcohol underneath keeps it pretty slippery, so that way you're able to work with it if you should need to. Once the paper is off, you still have that ability to lift and replace or put it in a different position. This is, I believe, my 4th customized airliner. You could still see the Toy Story one in the background. Each one of them tends to get better and better as I learn new tricks or ways that I like to do things. This one I feel is by far my cleanest. We're going to go ahead and do up a couple touches on my planet just to give it a little bit of haze around there so it's not a perfectly clean line. You really don't want perfect planet, perfect background. So as that stuff was done and trying, now I'm just adding a little bit of haze, a little bit of light side to that thing. Shading or darkening the one corner of the planet where Iron Man's going to be coming out of the backside. And then we're going to add a little black over the top of it. And the reason I waited is just because with that technique right there, I didn't want it to pull any of the planet paint color schemes up, because I was very happy with the way that turned out. A little bit of a star spot on there, a little bright star, a little shining streak, if you will. Gives that thing a nice touch. Now the key to it all is to place the Iron Man. Get that baby shot up. Obviously, there's a little bit of time in there for that paint to dry. Look at that star streak right up in the top of the center of the plane. How nice does that thing look? Now we get Iron Man, and the way that this just turned out, it looks like he's coming up and out of that planet right there. How cool. So I hope you guys are enjoying the build of this Avengers-themed airliner. I'm actually at the airplane field right now. It is way too windy, gusting winds of over 30 miles an hour, so it's way too hard to fly. So while we're out camping and flying, might as well take some time to do some video editing while we can. So still enjoying our weekend. I hope you guys are doing the same, but just spending some time getting this video under wraps. So next weekend, as soon as we get the unveiling done, you guys get to see the vid right out of the gate. Pictures will be up on the official Facebook, Instagram, and Just Plain Crazy pages for you guys to check everything out. But do me a favor, if you're not liked over there or subscribed, hop on over there and do so. I'd appreciate that a lot. Everything's under the Just Plain Crazy official Facebook page or Just Plain Crazy Instagram names. Man, do I get a big sigh of relief and take a deep breath when these windows are done. They always drive me insane. But anyway, one of the other things I took into account is window placement when I position the character groups. I wanted to make sure that the windows interfered as little as they possibly could with the characters' faces. So I slid things around to kind of make everything look the best it could. Now we're back in the garage. This setup works great for being able to rotate this plane. If you guys haven't done this, it's a simple PVC rod through the center of the plane on 2 ladders. That got it all cleared up. Now we're going to go ahead and finish the electronics and the little doodad placement in there. Time to get the wiring cleaned up. Tried to get the ESCs in here. Everything is Spectrum Avian ESCs. Joe wanted to use those. We're using a Spectrum AR safe receiver. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but any safe receiver would work. We're putting in all the lights. All the safety clips on the connectors are changed. We're getting the tape, the masking off the windows because it's cleared, and you see what it did to those colors, how it made the colors pop in the fuselage. It really, although it looked a little dark in the beginning, now really pops. And those are all locking safe connectors. We put on the rear lights. Again, we pull everything off the fuselage. I just found it's the easiest way to do it instead of working around that stuff. All the horizontal stabs have Hansen lock safety connectors on them, so nothing's going to come apart. Now we're going to feed all those connectors in. So every connector has safety locks on it of some kind. Now this is really even the first time for me. I'm really starting to see everything come together. So we're getting all the screws put into place and everything. Starting to get some final looks to this plane. Now we're using my little zoomy goggles and we're going to touch up all of that coping around the windows, all that track work. I found that using those makes it really nice. If you haven't used those before to paint things or to see up close, I got them off Amazon for just a couple bucks. They weren't really expensive. They have a nice light on the front of them and it really helps to see details and make the small stuff pretty big. Couple coats of that aluminum paint in there and we're going to be good to go. Look at how that bottom pops with that lava color. And some of the finishing steps here, we're going to take the Incredible Hulk. We're going to glue him into position, holding our receiver antennas to a 90-degree angle to each other. Use a little bit of hot glue in his hands. That way the antennas are nice and secured. We'll tidy up all the wires for the receiver. And the last thing I do is I run a small bead of hot glue along the edge of the connectors to the receiver itself, so nothing can ever come loose from vibration.
Oh, Hulk.
Now we finally get the finished AL up into the garage and it's time to start to put this thing together for its big reveal, seeing the outside. We get the wing slid on our airplane stand. We have our special bolts made to attach the wings so we don't need any tools. So we get all of our connectors finalized. We'll get ready here. We're going to start to set the throws and make sure all the control surfaces work and move the same way and there's no interference or binding. Time to throw the battery inside of this thing. Eats alive! Eats alive! We got lights, camera action. In case you're wondering what that little doodad is up there swinging in the top right-hand corner on a string, that's my parking stop. So when you pull into the garage, it's just a ping pong ball glued onto a string that's stuck to the ceiling, so I know where to stop the vehicle so I don't crush the back of it with the garage door. So we're going ahead and programming the radio, setting up all the control surfaces, setting up the voice commands if possible. Here we're using my old school AccuMeter AccuThrow gauge. That was an old Tower Hobbies deal, but that works great for setting up all of the planes, making sure all of our control surface movements are to the manual specifications. Landing gear works up and down, got all of our switches properly programmed. Couple final flap adjustments there on the clips. Make sure everything is aligned up good for a neutral. I think it's time to get this baby down and let's get her out the bay door. Oh, here we go. Here it is. Lights, camera, action. It's your big day, baby. What a beast. First time seeing the runway. Okay, it's a driveway, but they're close. So the next big thing that we're going to hope for is a really nice big reveal day. And then the second thing you're going to hope for is a really big maiden day. Hoping that all goes well for sure. Anyway, I'm glad you guys joined me. I appreciate you for hanging out. But it's time to go get a walk around on this thing and show you what this thing looks like up close in its finished state. Thanks guys, like, share, subscribe. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram, the Just Plain Crazy pages.
Here we go. It's picture day of the Marvels Avengers AL. This is for Drone Man Productions. I've been working on this bad boy for 5 months. On and off. It's been a challenge, guys. Graphics from Callie graphics, customization from Just Plain Crazy. I'm sorry, best one I've built yet. This thing is phenomenal. You can't see a seam in it, so you can't tell. There's a seam up there, there's a seam all the way through here. The bottom looks the same, you know, there's a big one on the side. You can't see any of those seams, guys. This is fiberglass looking. It's a knocked out of the park. I have color shift glitter in this thing, so depending on which way you stand, you get a hues of blue, of purple, a little bit of silver. This thing, guys, is a complete home run. It is knocked out of the park with the space galaxy theme. The planets, so they're behind Iron Man, are all painted. That was all me. The little peripherals there to doodads. The belly looks exactly the same. But how amazing. The different background texture behind the characters. Just, it's knocked out of the park. Everything about this is just, it turned out stellar. Normally I'll throw some music here. We're not. I'm just proud of this thing. It's amazing. See that nose? The texture. And inside there, we'll shoot a little night clip here and paste that baby in, but we also have Thor and Iron Man as pilots on the inside, but just absolutely stunning. This thing looks so good. God, I don't even want to see it hit the air. Not even kidding. It's crazy. Just plain crazy. So I don't know how that's going to show up in the camera. I really don't. Even the video camera can't do this thing justice because of the color shift glitter and stuff to it, but I hope this gives you guys a nice overall view of what this thing looks like, and then we'll hit the belly in a minute. Hope you guys can see that underside and what that looks like. Avian ESCs on the inside. Spectrum 8 channel receiver. Bottom of our engine nacelles. Painted our wheels. I've always avoided painting wheels, but upside down. But still amazing looking. Love it. And there you have it, guys. That's a wrap on this Marvels Avenger theme AL for Drone Man Productions. I know it's a time lapse and a zip through this thing, but otherwise we've customized so many ALs and so many secrets along the way. This one was definitely a challenge, but this is my favorite by far. I love the color shift glitter that I put in this thing. I love the colors. I love the space theme. Graphics are a perfect hit from Callie graphics, so check her out in the link below. But anyway, so it's Brendan here at Just Plain Crazy. You guys are just plain crazy like me for sticking around and watching this stuff. I appreciate every one of you guys. Like, share, subscribe, all that cool shameless plug stuff. Smash that thumbs up button. It helps me out immensely. If you're gonna hit the thumbs down, do that thing twice. With that being said, I wish you guys happy flights. Peace out.